These women are dancing to keep fit and help fight off osteoporosis. Osteoporosis is a debilitating bone disease which affects millions of women around the world. It's often called the silent epidemic because sufferers, mostly women, often get no warning until a bone suddenly breaks. In a 10-year clinical trial and study of osteoporosis, according to Nottingham City Hospital consultants, it was shown that there were significant increases in bone density after long-term drug usage. The tests also showed that the drug can suppress the level of bone reduction to that of younger premenopausal women. It's important to make sure the effects of the drugs are sustained and that there are no significant side effects.
And now on to Turkey, and Turkey's Izmir Zoo welcomes 2 new bouncing baby tigers to the family. The baby tigers were born in the southeast and have been given to the zoo after the owner decided he could not give them adequate care. The owner had been taking care of the baby's parents. Now, without their parents around, the baby tigers have to adapt to their new environment and family. During their adaptation period, they're a bit shy and their carers can't get too close to them. The zookeepers are trying to keep them in a calm environment while they get used to their new home. Zookeepers say it will probably take a week or so before they are adapted. Tigers are an endangered species. They live in Asia in a variety of habitats. Researchers think that there are between 5,000 and 7,500 wild tigers living in the world today. Unlike wild tigers which kill their prey and then gorge, tigers that live in zoos are fed a prepared diet of horse meat and vitamins daily. They may eat as much as 10 pounds of meat per day. Female tigers reach maturity when they are around 3 years old, males a year or so later. Tiger cubs are born blind and weigh only about 2 to 3 pounds. They live on their mother's milk for 6 to 8 weeks. The average litter size of tigers is 2 or 3 cubs. The largest is 5.
And from around the world, Japan's largest auto manufacturer has joined the robot race. After Honda and Sony, Toyota has become the latest Japanese company to unveil a humanoid robot. Using its research in robots that normally find themselves on the factory floor, Toyota has developed something with a more personal touch, with a 1.2-meter high bipedal robot that can blow its own trumpet. While not yet Miles Davis, the robot and its other brethren, generically called Toyota Partner Robots, uses artificial lungs and lips to create the sounds needed to produce notes. By making the most of Toyota's technique to make vehicles, they came up with the idea of creating robots that could be useful to humans. To prove that the robots were really using their own lungs and lips, they were made to play into a microphone. How useful these robots could be would be, however, less easy to prove. Toyota aims to develop motion and sound sensor technology for the robot and then apply it to automobiles as a device to avoid collisions, one report said. Toyota hopes the new robot can help factory workers conduct physically demanding work and provide assistance in nursing care and rescue operations. Toyota expects the robot eventually to be programmed to perform a variety of tasks with its nimble fingers. Other versions include a small wheeled robot that can move with more speed and mobility, and they are even researching a bipedal mount to help the handicapped. The Toyota robot stands 120 centimeters tall and does not yet have a cute name, unlike some of its rivals. No price tag has yet been placed on the robot, which is still in the research phase, and of which many of its applications and functions remain top secret. The company has provided few specific details about the technology used for the machine and did not reveal how much it spent developing the robot. The technique that Toyota has for a walking robot with 2 legs would lead to various kinds of developments in the future. The technique will fit the next developments, but the details of such developments were not forthcoming from executives. For now, it has no plans to sell or rent it. Instead, it hopes to form a robot band to play at the 2005 World Exposition, being held in central Japan.
We begin in Japan, where Chihiro Yokoyama is a rare breed of cafe restaurant owner. He is the only Japanese recognized by the World Barista Committee as a professionally trained brewer of espressos and cappuccinos. Barista, an Italian term, has recently also been stretched to loosely mean someone who excels in the art of coffee making. But for Yokoyama, he has a mission to change that and convert a nation of tea drinkers into more knowledgeable drinkers of coffee. Japan has grown into the world's third largest consumer of coffee from virtually zero 20 years ago. Global coffee chains such as Starbucks are part of the reason behind the growth in coffee drinkers. But many still feel the culture is lacking in depth, something Yokoyama is trying to change. Even first-time customers to his Bar de Sol in a trendy spot of Tokyo are easily converted to his cup of coffee. His coffee is really mild and has an impressive delicateness, and it doesn't have a harsh taste. The trick to the trade is practice. Yokoyama not only makes over 400 cups of espresso and cappuccino a day, but he regularly participates in competitions to improve his skills. In the recent Barista Championship, Yokoyama brewed and frothed his way to the top seat of the Japanese professionals. The profession is still little known in Japan, but is gaining in popularity, and hundreds of people turned up to watch the competition at a food exposition. As the 5 competitors sweated it out, judges looked for the best blend of passion and technique. In the end, Yokoyama took the final trophy for the second time in the championship's 4-year history. Yokoyama looks upon the future of baristas in Japan with hope. He believes that the barista's abilities over the past 2 or 3 years have improved drastically. Fragrances in the past years have become stronger and better. The quality of coffees in Japan has definitely improved a lot. Back at his restaurant, Yokoyama is preparing to compete in the World Championships next, where he will face over 40 competitors from around the world.
Reading University, a leading centre for botanical research, is holding rare plant specimens from around the world. A collection of over 250,000 dried samples of plants and herbs, some centuries old, is stored in the university's herbarium. This rich storehouse of botanical data is now being outed on the internet. This new species of lavender was discovered in Morocco by researchers from Reading and the University of Rabat. It's the latest plant to be added to the growing online botanical database at Reading University. It has a vast amount of data available on labels and associated information which gives flowering time. Add the fact that the plant was growing in a particular location at a particular date, and this becomes important for conservation purposes. This computerized plant library is helping Dr. Jury and his Moroccan colleagues build up a complete atlas of that country's flora. Botanists in other research centres are increasingly making use of this unique resource. As well as dried specimens, drawings and sketches by professional and amateur botanists are loaded into the database. They too are a valuable source of information on the location of different plant species from around the world. For researchers anywhere in the world wanting help in identifying plants or charting the changing growth pattern of species, the online herbarium at Reading is proving an indispensable scientific tool.
Now onto the environment. The Indian Ocean, off the coast of Mauritius, and a family of sperm whales is passing through, sailing gracefully on the current of the tide. These whales are perfectly adapted to their environment. They can travel huge distances and withstand considerable changes in temperature. But they're in grave danger, both from whale hunters and from man-made poisons. These poisons have gradually worked their way into the oceans. Most of the danger comes from pesticides. Whales have an abundance of fat tissue and have accumulated the hazardous waste in their bodies. This research vessel is on a 5-year mission to investigate man's impact on the sea, launched by the Ocean Alliance, a US-based whale conservation and research body. The Odyssey set sail in the year 2000. By the time they reached Mauritius, the scientists weren't optimistic. They'd analysed samples from the sperm whales for traces of toxins and were alarmed by how heavily the oceans are polluted. They used sperm whales for 2 reasons. The first one is that they are the most abundant of the great whale species left post-commercial whaling. It's estimated that there are around 350,000 sperm whales left in the world's oceans. The second reason is that they're similar to humans in that they're long-lived mammals and have similar biological and physiological characteristics. This means that what they find in the sperm whale tissues have implications for humans as well. The scientists track the whales when they are below the surface. They fire a small dart and take a small plug of skin. They then take it to the lab on board where it's cut into several pieces. The samples they collect are then analysed for man-made toxins. One of these is DDT, a highly toxic pesticide and insect killer, which isn't water soluble, so it stays in the environment for a long time after it was first used. DDT has been banned for about 30 years in the United States. Unfortunately, it's still manufactured and used in some developing countries around the world. The treaty allows for controlled use of the chemical to fight malaria, but for many farmers in Africa, DDT is one of the most cost-effective methods to control pests and insects. DDT-contaminated food may be bad for your health, but in Africa, DDT also saves lives. It's widely used to kill mosquitoes that cause malaria. In a continent where 1 million people die of the disease every year, this is still the cheapest, most effective way to fight the illness. Education and environmental awareness are some of the key elements of the voyage of the Odyssey. At their stop in Mauritius, the team invited students and government officials on board the yacht and gave them a few tips on how to protect the ocean and the creatures within it. Organic chemicals have a devastating effect on whales. They can prevent fetuses from developing properly and can cause cancer, sterility, and birth defects. And it's not just whales that are at risk, but also any other mammal that eats contaminated food, including human beings. As the Odyssey continues on its journey, its scientists hope that the information that the whales are giving them will be acted upon to protect not just the ocean's biggest animals, but mankind too. DDT is one of a list of 12 pollutants known as the Dirty Dozen. Recently they were outlawed at the United Nations Stockholm Convention, which will come into force in May 2004.
We begin our health stories with a story about a disease that affects millions of people. Around 120 million people suffer from LF or elephantitis. It affects those mostly in the developing world, where limbs blow up out of proportion to the rest of the body. The British experts helping the campaign say the disease can have devastating effects. Poor sanitation can lead to the disease being carried by microscopic parasite worms that invade the lymphatic system in the body, spreading LF. Mosquitoes carry the disease further. The WHO already has a program to stop LF spreading and is increasing it to reach more people. Having already treated 350 million potential victims in 37 countries with the annual 2-drug treatment, the aim now is to triple that to stop LF spreading further. It's felt the move will have real benefits. They believe with a greater level of intervention, it is achievable to stop the disease in its tracks. These are diseases of poverty. They are treatable and they can be stopped forever. The WHO believe that LF could be eliminated as a global disease within 20 to 25 years.
And now for health. Every year in the UK, more than 160,000 people survive a heart attack, and some 27,000 have heart surgery. Though the road to recovery following major heart surgery is often slow, research has shown that heart patients who follow individually tailored cardiac rehabilitation programs make the greatest strides towards a healthier future. Now, thanks to lottery distributor the New Opportunities Fund, the British Heart Foundation has been given a £4.7 million cash injection to set up 40 cardiac rehabilitation centres offering tailored programs to heart patients across the UK. Cardiac patients who have already started on tailored rehabilitation programs say the difference in their health and well-being is significant and are delighted that others will benefit from the same program. Some even feel 20 years younger. The centres will offer a range of rehabilitation courses including Keep Fit, Tai Chi, Aqua Aerobics and even cook and eat sessions.
A new exhibition of over 1,000 postcards of ordinary people from the 20th century has opened in London. We Are the People traces how the picture postcard transformed the art of portraiture from an elitist pastime to popular craze and offers a fresh insight into the history of the British people. The postcards, showing in London's National Portrait Gallery, were chosen from over 50,000 owned by artist Thomas Phillips. They reflected the lives of ordinary people in the first half of the 20th century. None of the postcards are named or identified, but have been put in sections showing everyday situations. Some show technological changes like the use of motorised charabancs to go on trips. There are also the first signs of women's emancipation, using their own transport to find a world outside the home. Others show how studios took on the advent of the first flight in their pictures, to more traditional shots reminiscent of today, with an Englishman's love affair with his dog. The artist Tom Phillips says it's their extraordinariness. Everybody's extraordinary, especially when you don't have to know them. We Are the People highlights both the past and the present, and is a chance to see how the image of ordinary people is an enduring and powerful insight into British life.
This competition embraces every conceivable area of design, from cars to shoes to lighting and furniture. The winner, who will be selected by votes from the public and a judging panel, will be awarded £25,000. The shortlisted designers feature in an exhibition at the Design Museum in London. The public get the chance to cast their vote both in the exhibition and online. The museum hopes that it's encouraging awareness and encouraging questioning about design. They hope to make people aware of the difference between vehicle design and new media design, and see the beauty and benefits of both. What sets the Designer of the Year competition apart is the fact that it's judged on achievements over the past year alone. Industrial designer Sam Buxton has been shortlisted for his exquisitely detailed miniaturized steel sculptures. Sam is interested in exploring industrial materials, processes used in industry, mass production processes, even using the car industry and using them in different ways. Also finding new applications for interesting new technologies. Also a hot contender for the title is Paul Coxedge, whose technical work using everyday objects celebrates the magical qualities of illumination. Paul says that there is a misconception that designers get their ideas in a flash, but he believes that the work is achieved through experimentation and discovering things, almost like a scientist.
With inspiration ranging from samurai warriors to urban contemporary, Argentine fashion designers unveil their latest creations. Fashion fans flocked to La Rural in the Argentine capital this week for Fashion Buenos Aires, a three-day showcase where 45 of the country's top brands were represented. The event, now in its 7th season, exhibited the autumn-winter collections from 18 different designers, including Mario Medici, Cora Groppo and Martin Cherba. Medici's jewellery this season was inspired by the armour worn by samurai warriors in 12th century Japan. Contemporary accessories made from silver, metal alloys and silk thread were designed to combine oriental subtleties of silk with the force and transparency of the metal mesh, adding touches of red, gold, black and copper to give it an urban feel. The autumn-winter collection from Cora Groppo reflected an organic feel, with the curves of the body a major feature of the show. Cotton, wool and patent leather were mixed to generate different light effects. Martin Cherba also presented his autumn-winter collection at Fashion Buenos Aires, with a clothing brand for men, women and children that this season reflects a modern unisex feel. Skirts and trousers with silicone treatment and plastic textures all made an appearance, with the designer explaining that the appliance of textile fashion was an ongoing work of investigation for him. The show is the second of 5 events taking place this month.
Now on to travel, and if you're heading to Germany, you should check out the Car and Technology Museum in the German town of Sinsheim. Concorde lifted off the ground for the last time, or once again. By now, bits of the famous airliner have been moved around and relocated around the world for die-hard fans to see. The plane's final resting place, the roof of the Car and Technology Museum. It needed a few cranes to help lift this once supersonic, super speedy plane, which weighs 380 tons. 23 special flatbed trailers brought the cranes needed to lift this bird. It took 2 days. Lifting Concorde was practiced a number of times before the actual day. The The whole enterprise itself took about 4 hours. Concorde was fastened on the roof by two 18-metre-long steel pipes, the front tyre with another 23-metre-long pipe, so that Concorde looks like it's about to take off. The museum purchased the aircraft for the token sum of €1, and it will go on display as a tribute to the 97 Germans who died in the Paris Concorde crash in July 2000. In 1990, the aircraft was approaching the 12,000-hour flying mark, where an expensive major or D check would be required. At that time, Air France had 5 other aircraft that were not hours challenged, and they were only operating a scheduled service to New York along with a handful of charters, so they decided to store the aircraft in June of 1990. In June 2003, this particular Concorde arrived from the French airport in Paris. It was deconstructed by museum technicians and moved via country roads and even on the River Rhine to its final resting place at Sinsheim. The plane next to Concorde is Russian, the Tupolev 144. This museum is the only one in the world that shows a Concorde and a Tupolev, and are the only ones who show the Concorde in takeoff position. It also holds the honour of being the last ever Air France flight with fare-paying passengers on board. The plane, FB-VFB with the serial number 7, was taken on the Air France fleet on April the 8th, 1976. Altogether, the Concorde has been in the air for 14,771 hours, 5,473 flights. Germany has much to offer, especially if aeroplanes are your passion.
And finally, set up 118 years ago and funded by private donations, the Home of Rest for Horses has been in its present base, some 2 hours from London, for almost 40 years. Just like humans, horses deserve a happy retirement when their working days are over. The Westcroft stables provide exactly that, as well as being in the forefront of educating the general public in Britain about equine health. Carers say the horses are spoiled rotten. They get fed at 7:30 in the morning, then they get taken out into the fields. Around 100 horses are currently in residence. They arrived from varied backgrounds. Many have been in Britain's armed forces, such as Dragoon. Now 32, he came to Westcroft 4 years ago after serving in the Household Cavalry. Others, of all sizes, have been family horses, ridden for fun or competition. Education for the public is a priority. There's often a misconception about a horse aging. It's not until about 20 that they should be regarded as approaching elderly status and needing special care. Current work focuses on problems posed by ragwort, a plant that can be fatal to horses and dangerous for humans. Driving home the message that horses need proper care throughout their lives will continue to be the charity's mission in its 2nd century. Well, that's all we have time for today. We look forward to your company next time.